Hello guys, welcome to ENbreezEN program from Team Enlight. Today we'll be looking into four topics. The first topic concerns Uniform Civil Code. We'll be looking at it from both prelims and mains perspective, covering the constitutional provisions and the implications and challenges of implementing Uniform Civil Code across the country. Then we'll be looking into the historical perspective of Jammu and Kashmir, primarily the statehood issue from mains perspective. We'll also be looking into the presidential order of 2019 and how it has affected the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. Then the Ministry of Cooperation, which was formed recently, we'll be looking at it both from prelims and mains perspective, studying its constitutional provisions and the significance of the creation of a new ministry. Okay. Then we'll be looking into Indian Meteorological Department, both from prelims and mains perspective, the key points concerning the department and the forecast system used by the department, which has been in use for various reasons. Okay, moving on. The first topic that we are considering today is Uniform Civil Code. It was in news because Delhi High Court has called for swift implementation of Uniform Civil Code and has centered to take action in this regard. So in this context, we have to know what is Uniform Civil Code and what are various dimensions. Okay, so Uniform Civil Code basically means that all the sections of the society, irrespective of their religion, should be treated equally. And this specifically covers their personal law, including marriage, divorce, inheritance, succession, etc. So Uniform Civil Code basically means that all the people be treated equally, irrespective of their religion. Then, coming to its constitutional provisions, Part 4 of Indian Constitution, which concerns directory principles of state policy, has Article 44 that sets the duty upon states to implement Uniform Civil Code. This is important. And in this context, it is important to understand that DPSP is not justiciable, so you cannot go to court regarding the same. However, DPSP still being fundamental in how the governance is carried out, this provision becomes important. Okay. Then you should also know that various court judgments have actually favored the implementation of Uniform Civil Code, including the Shah Bano case and the Sarla Mudgal case. These are the two very important cases in which Supreme Court has held that Uniform Civil Code has to be implemented, and it is in the spirit of Indian Constitution. What are the implications of implementing Uniform Civil Code? Uniform Civil Code will ensure gender justice in its true meaning by existing laws in our country. So implementation of UCC would ensure that women across all the communities will be treated equally as per a common single civil code. Implementation of Uniform Civil Code will also ensure simplification and unification of and this will lead to better personal law codification for all the people in the country. However, there are various challenges in the implementation of Uniform Civil Code. The constitutional hurdle in implementation of Uniform Civil Code lies in the conflict between Article 14 and Article 25. Article 14 aligns with Uniform Civil Code because it says that every citizen should be treated equally. However, Article 25 gives every citizen the right to freedom of practicing versus Article 14 and Article 25, and has to supersede. Article 14 has to supersede Article 25. The other challenge in the implementation of UCC is communal politics. Communal politics has meant that UCC has been viewed from communal lens, whereby a majority of our society views UCC as a majoritarian measure under the garb of social reform. So these are the key dimensions that you have to know from Uniform Civil Code. The second topic that we are considering for the day is historical perspective of Jammu and Kashmir issue, especially the statehood issue. Jammu and Kashmir issue has been in news for various reasons, but recently it was in news because the tradition of shifting capital from Kashmir to Jammu during winters and vice versa during summers is coming to an end finally. And there have been various demands concerning restoration of the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir and also restoring the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. So in this context, we will be looking into the history of J&K statehood. You should know that during the independence of India, at the time of independence, Jammu and Kashmir was a princely state ruled by Hari Singh. And when independence happened, the paramountcy of British crown lapsed and it was up to the ruler to choose to join India or Pakistan. However, Hari Singh at that time decided to not join any country and decided to have a standstill agreement with Pakistan and India. And Kashmir signed a standstill agreement with Pakistan. However, it did not sign any such agreement with India. And while Pakistan had signed standstill agreement, it attacked Kashmir for the northern frontiers. This led to the panic of the ruler Hari Singh and forced him to sign instrument of accession with India, which gave India jurisdiction to external affairs, communications and defense. And it is important to note here that instrument of accession gave jurisdiction of only external affairs, communications and defense to India. However, after instrument of accession, India airlifted soldiers and fought off Pakistani soldiers and Pashtun tribals in northern Kashmir area, enforced a ceasefire, and India referred the issue to UNSC for their consideration, hoping that UNSC would reinstate Kashmir to India. However, UNSC formed a United Nations Commission on India and Pakistan and came to the conclusion that Kashmir needs to decide its own course by having in Kashmir before conducting plebiscite. However, this could not be implemented as Pakistan never withdrew from POK, and meanwhile, a government came into being in Jammu and Kashmir after elections, which signed the Delhi Agreement of 1952, whereby Jammu and Kashmir became a state of India. However, as part of Delhi Agreement of 1952, Indian President passed a constitutional order of Article. The special status to Jammu and Kashmir ensured that the state had a separate constitution and various special provisions. One of the which provides that state assembly can define permanent residents of the state, whereby land can be owned in the state only by permanent residents. And also another important clause under the special status was that any law passed by parliament could be applicable in Jammu and Kashmir only on the concurrence of the state assembly. So these are the key aspects of the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. However, the special status of Jammu and Kashmir was nullified by the Presidential Order of 2019, which made Jammu and Kashmir a normal state, and all the provisions of Constitution applied to Jammu and Kashmir like any other state to Jammu and Kashmir. Thereafter, with a parliamentary act, Jammu and Kashmir was reorganized into two UTs of Jammu and Kashmir. So this is how the Jammu and Kashmir, this is the basic evolution of Jammu and Kashmir statehood issue. Moving on, So the third topic that we'll be looking into is Ministry of Cooperation, which was in news because Ministry of Cooperation was formed recently. However, the states have alleged that the Cooperation Ministry will usurp states' rights. The key points in this context that you have to know is that Ministry of Cooperation was recently formed with the vision of Sahkar se Samriddhi, which basically means prosperity through cooperation, and was primarily aimed at increasing the cooperative movement, promoting the cooperative movement across the country. And the states have alleged that center aims to hijack the cooperative movement across the country, primarily because cooperatives fall under the states list as per Schedule 7. Okay, so we have to know the constitutional provisions of cooperatives in this context. Cooperatives were given constitutional status through the Constitutional Amendment Act of 97, which created a Part 9B separately for cooperatives. It included right to form cooperatives as a fundamental right under 1C, and it was also the duty of state to encourage and promote cooperative movement in the country by Article 43B. So these are the constitutional provisions in the context of cooperatives. Then regarding the sequence of Ministry of Cooperation, the creation of Ministry of Cooperation creates a separate administrative, legal and policy framework for cooperative movement, ensuring that cooperative movement can flourish across the country with support from center, which otherwise falls within the state's ambit. This is believed to encourage creation, which will lead to increasing credit capacity and credit expansion of cooperative banks. Cooperative banks are mostly limited within states, and this will also give a huge push to the cooperative movement across the country in general. In the context of mains perspective, you should know the evolution of cooperatives. You should know the importance of the set. What are the challenges of ensuring cooperative promotion across the country? So these are key things that you have to know in the context of Ministry of Cooperation. Moving on. The last topic that we'll be considering for the day is Indian Meteorological Department. Recently, parliamentary panel has asked for more synergy between Indian Meteorological Department and private players, and the parliamentary panel has asked for a single authoritative source of forecast. This is important because we have seen that various private forecasters have made differing forecasts with IMD coherence between different forecasts in the country. So the article calls for a synergy between IMD and in this context, we should know that IMD forecasts monsoon, its arrival, extent of monsoon, and also the extent of winter season and its extremity in the country, source of forecast. In this context, we should know that IMD is planning to move to an forecasting system. It is a system whereby different forecasting systems, such as the statistical model, the computer-based circulation system, global circulation system, models would be integrated to have a comprehensive forecast results. In this context, you should know also about Indian Meteorological Department, which was established in 1875 in the pre-independence era. It comes under the Ministry of Earth Sciences and the Government of India. It is the principal agency concerning meteorological observations, weather. Regarding significance, the IMD is of very important is of very important significance because the forecast of IMD affects agriculture, it affects civil aviation, it affects shipping, and it also is important from the perspective of disaster warnings. So IMD remains very important. Then Concerning its report, it publishes a state of the climate report for the previous year, whereby it explains rainfall and temperature variations in the country, and also the deaths that have been caused due to disasters. So these are the key things that you have to know in the context of. So there were also various other news, such as the delimitation exercise, which we have already covered, and the link to which we will be providing in the description. You can go through it. There was the news of increasing pressure on oil prices, and regarding India's concern concerning Taliban's advance in Afghanistan. In this context, you can read more about India-Afghanistan relationship. So all these news have already been covered under ENbreezEN, and you can find their link in description. You can go through them. So that's all from today's news. With more news articles, Team Enlight will join you tomorrow. Thank you.